I gotta ask.
Am I bugging, Vlad?
Listen, hold on. Let's get to the meat and macaroni.
Meat and macaroni.
Nobody does meat and potatoes.
I'm Haitian.
I like macaroni.
Me
macaroni
too.
and cheese.
Macaroni and cheese.
Casanova did a video.
Yeah.
Claiming to be the biggest gangster in Flatbush.
Yeah, in the past.
Not
currently. Before he went to prison, he was the biggest gangster in Flatbush, is what he said on camera. Right.
When you're sitting there and you're hearing the things that some people are saying, when they're basically snitching on themselves.
Are they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you're talking about, when you talking
Wait.
about things that you've done in your past the statute of limitations.
There ain't no statute.
Past the statute of limitations, right?
There is a statute of limitations. We're not talking about murders.
There is.
No,
there
Vlad,
is.
We're not
however, they talk about on your show.
However, hold
on.
Right.
I remember I bought a kilo of cocaine back in when was it? Late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I bought a kilo of cocaine
For personal use?
No, to sell.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like I dabbled in the drug game. Like you know what I'm saying?
Wow,
like,
okay.
like
How
like
much
you know,
was it? How much did it cost?
17,000.
17,000.
17,000.
Jeezy?
Huh?
Jeezy price?
It was the homie that I went to college with that I thought was my friend, and he was a former drug dealer, and I suddenly had this, I think I'd watched Deep Cover or something. I got the stupid idea to go into drug dealing.
And you had 17,000 to blow.
I ended up getting ripped off for the money, and me and him had, whatever, he ripped me off and whatever else. I freely talked about this multiple times on multiple interviews, and I have no issue talking about it because it's way past the statute of limitations, and that is what it is. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, and I have the right to monetize that, to monetize my life on my platform, to talk about certain things, just like Jay-Z could talk about his drug dealing past and monetize that.
Right.
So when Casanova said that, 15 years ago I was the biggest gangster in Flatbush, and I went to prison for it, and I served my time, and now I'm out, and I could talk about it, I don't look at that as snitching.
I mean,
but do you
self-snitching?
But when these type of interviews are used against him in court,
that interview is not used against him in court.
It's not.
Well, no,
It's
not him specifically, but when those types of interviews.
Let me address this. That my name was trending for 2 days because there was some article that's claiming that this interview was somehow in the paperwork when it really isn't. This interview has nothing to do with this case.
Has the police ever subpoenaed or law enforcement?
We had one situation.
Yeah.
We had one situation with an interview that we did with someone from prison that they talked about certain things in the interview. You know what I mean? And the next day they called me and said, listen, I'm not going to say who it is, but they called me. They said, hey, listen, I just talked to my lawyer who heard the interview, and he thinks that we should take it down because it might hurt, because they're in the process of an appeal. Well, at that point, can you take it down? I said, no problem. 9 months later, someone from the Justice Department called me and said, we want to copy this interview. And I said, no. And they're like, well, we're going to put you on the stand. And I'm like, you can do whatever the fuck you want to do, but I'm not going to give you the interview. And I lawyered up. And I spent $10,000 fighting that. You know what I'm saying? For them not to seize.
Did they get you on the stand?
No, they didn't get me on the stand, and they actually weren't able to seize the interview. Anyways,
because the myth is you give up the footage.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
And I don't give up anything. Like, it's publicly released. You know what I'm saying? The entire interview comes out. You know what I mean? So it's like, what do I do? Give it to them before it's out?
Yeah,
no,
like
it publicly comes out.
Part. Oh, you know, part where I talked about murdering somebody the other day.
Yeah.
Kids just keep that low,
keep that low,
and then somebody finds out
At
about
no
it.
point have you seen an interview I did that it looked like he's just talking, that I'm talking to the person off camera. Like, when I sit down with somebody, there's 2 cameras pointed at them. There's a shotgun mic and a lav mic. There's recorders. Like, you sign release forms. Like, you know you're being recorded when we have that conversation. Never in life have I secretly taped somebody or used a personal recording or recorded someone on the phone. It's been done to me, but I've never done it to anybody because that's just not what I do, and that's not morally what I'm about.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So whatever a person says on camera, they know they're saying it on camera.
Yeah.
And in that situation, we fought it. The dude didn't even know until a couple years later that even happened because I didn't even tell him about it. You know what I'm saying? Huh?
Who was it?
I'm not going to say. I'll tell you off camera.
You're not going to say.
I'm going to tell you off camera. But
I
like,
always got to find out.
You said,
I know y'all sitting there wondering, like, what is he talking about? I got to ask the question.
You could probably figure it out. I mean, I haven't done that many prison interviews, you know, over the phone, but like, I will fight the police to protect the rights of my guests. You know, and I'll spend my own money and do that shit. You know what I'm saying? The Casanova thing, there was a fake article from an outlet you've never fucking heard of that was circulating that I'm somehow the reason why he got hemmed up. And it's not. Like, our interview wasn't using that. And then months later, we actually got the audio of his bail hearing, and the fucking feds are mentioning the interview he did on Nick Cannon's show.
Right. Yeah, I heard about that.
They said Nick Cannon by name multiple times. The Nick Cannon interview where Casanova says, "I'm still ape." You know, based on that, we should not give him bail. Nick Cannon. Is it Nick Cannon's fault that happened? No, it's not. It's, you know, Casanova said it was taken out of context, but they're naming Nick Cannon, and we have the audio of it. But is Nick Cannon the feds? No. Oh, no, Nick Cannon did. No, oh, that was just a mistake. But Vlad is the feds over some fake shit. Yeah. But over some real shit, it's not. So look, I mean, at the end of the day, the reality is that if you're doing music, you should have left your criminal shit behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should not. You should. There's no absolute. Listen.
I agree.
There's absolutely no. If you are actively a criminal, music should be the last thing you're doing.
You're right. However,
but I think that's unfair because you said you just bought a kilo while you were in the music industry.
I wasn't in the music industry.
No, he wasn't.
But in the late '90s, you weren't trying to figure it out.
Nah, I wasn't.
And the difference. Here's the difference.
Now, it was before I started DJing and everything else like that.
Apologies.
Here's the biggest difference. Here's the biggest difference. We're talking about adults. What I see you catching flack over is because you have kids, for lack of a better term.
When do I have kids?
Late teens, early 20s,
like 22,
23.
That's talking crazy.
Little rappers who talk crazy on your platform.
All right, so you mean to tell me someone who pays bills, has a driver's license,
yes,
possibly has children,
yes,
has a, you know what I'm saying, pays taxes,
yes,
let's run it down.
You know what I mean? Has electricity, is a child.
Yes, the answer to all of those things is yes. Age doesn't equal maturity at all. It never has. I know grown-ass boys.
So at one point, does this become like the responsibility of the actual person saying the shit?
I will never. Wait. Let me answer the question. Yeah. I will never tell you that it's not their responsibility. I will never tell you that you talking crazy on there got you hemmed up. What we're speaking about is the flack that Vlad catches and why.
This
is where this comes from.
But it's in his job to say, hey, chill. I think you're saying too much.
Now
Hold on. Let's answer that question after this intermission. So we were discussing the Casanova situation. You pretty much cleared that up.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of other situations where I'm pretty sure, as an interviewer, I get it sometimes. I see the look in certain people's eyes when they just want to share something, and you know that there's some shit that's going to start problems. You know it could be something that might compromise their freedom, but they want the notoriety of whatever actions was committed. What's going through your mind when people are snitching on themselves?
I mean,
even he got a giggle.
You gotta think about this. I mean, it doesn't happen. Yes, it does.
It does happen.
Yeah. So,
I'm very careful about how I conduct these interviews. Like, you know, you look at like when I interviewed the baby when he had just, you know, killed those dudes in self-defense at the Walmart.
Right.
When it was an open case. And it was like, all right, you have an open case, so I don't want to talk about the details right now. I mean, are you okay though? How are you emotionally dealing with this right now? Like, I'll go that direction.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to be like, so what happened? You know, who shot first? Did you pull? You know what I mean? Like, nah, like this is an open case. He was ultimately cleared from self-defense on that shit. You know, same thing with the no plug shit. He had already gone, like it wasn't like an open case in the whole the bankroll fresh shit. The whole point with that was he had already turned himself in met with the detectives, with his lawyers. They reviewed the video footage and they had decided at that point that they are not pursuing any charges with him, which they ultimately never pursued.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm very careful in doing this where a person does not incriminate themselves, does not say something over some shit that they are dealing with at the time. But I don't know what a person is doing in their private life.
Right.
I don't know what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you have, you know, I remember like me and Boosie talked about it. He goes, you can't be a rapper and a gangster at the same time. That's how he ended up on death row. And I'm not talking about the label. Like actual death row in Baton Rouge over trying to be a gangster and a rapper at the same time. That shit does not work out. And you like Rod Diggs is still locked up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Shout out to Rod
Rod Diggs, we did a lot of work with him.
And you know what I'm saying? Who
I should be in the studio
they
with
ended
Rod.
up, they ended up using all his YouTube videos and all this other shit
him.
against him in his own case. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people thought I had something to do with AR Ab, you know, getting what he got, which was an unbelievably high amount of time. But you listen to AR Ab interviews, he was like, Vlad had nothing to do with any of this. None of my interviews with Vlad were used in court, whatever. It was a whole different case. Right. It's like you want to ignore the obvious of, you know, I mean, not him, but I'm talking about the people want to ignore the obvious of, there was a snitch who testified against everybody.
Right. Point the finger at him.
That's what happened.
Right.
There was a snitch who testified against everybody, and that's why that whole crew got taken down. It wasn't because of a Vlad interview of some shit that he had done a whole bunch of years ago and shit like that. Like, at the end of the day, man, listen, not only are your interviews going to be used in terms of whatever the police want to use, but your music will be played in court.
Yeah.
Boosie songs, they spent a day and a half playing Boosie songs in court to the jury. Your social media is going to be used. It's all of it. You know what I mean? And once again, I say this, if you do the hip hop shit, if you're trying to be a public figure, being a criminal at the same time is probably the worst idea that you could possibly do.
Right.
It's the worst thing that you could possibly do. You want to stay under the radar, not by bragging about criminal shit in songs.
Yeah, because that never made no sense to me.
It's always going to backfire one way or another.
But I can't guarantee you this. Anybody who's ever lived that type of lifestyle, who's ever did some shit that would be considered this some ill shit, you deep down, you want people to know how ill you are.
Let me tell you how.
You want people to know
how ill.
Yo, I pulled this off.
But
you know what I mean? Like deep down, you want to just be. You just want to tell those stories, but
and that's how you get caught.
this
But
is where
listen
you
to
get
this.
stopped at.
Yeah.
Common sense. It's not gonna work out.
Sense
for you, buddy.
ain't never been
It's not gonna
common,
work
no,
out.
but this ain't fair.
We call it that.
Let's say this, right? What do these dudes got to really talk about with no life experience? I remember, no real bullshit. He brought a client to me, right? The person did the interview. They didn't really say much, and I couldn't do anything with it. And I've known this too, because Vlad is a big platform, so is this, World Star, whatever. A lot of people hold their stories because they want to go to the bigger platforms to look larger than life.
Right.
Because they want to say, I want to save this for Vlad, I want to save this for Breakfast Club, and things of that nature. So when they go here, what else are they going to talk about? Stocks? You're a 22-year-old criminal. What do you know? All you've done is been in the streets, bust guns, drink all day, slam hoes. All you can tell is and we've been in love with the gangster for over 100 years in America.
Oh yeah, we have. Well, which kind of gangster?
That is a problem for people with no personality.
We're not in love with the gangster. I
but
want to
that's
clear
not-
that up. I want to clear that up.
Well, hold on.
Hold on.
You can't say 100 years. Society has been in
Since
love with the
1920,
outlaw.
Al Capone.
With society as a whole has been in love with the outlaw. Anyone that works outside of society.
But I'm talking about America.
Period.
America.
Period. Europe,
It don't-
Africa.
it don't matter who it is.
Asia.
But this,
You know what I mean?
Just
Like,
someone who breaks the natural ordained
Exactly.
things. You know what I mean?
who doesn't follow the rules, the rule breakers, the people that live outside the law. That's always going to be appealing. It's always
But
going to
more
be exciting.
importantly, we're fans of the guy at the bottom who figures out a way to get to the top.
Yeah.
And telling shit that could get you arrested to a camera,
It's attractive.
is not the way to get to the top.
I mean,
So I'm not a fan of this.
but listen to the music of
understand
the
what I'm
culture,
saying?
though. It's about all the criminal activity saying, I went through this, I'm going through this, and I'm elevating.
Yeah.
So it's no different than a Vlad TV interview of, Vlad, this is what I started, this is what I did in the streets, but I'm looking to elevate.
Very much different.
How?
Very much
Break it
different.
At 22, what were you
Break
going
it
to talk
down.
about?
Break it
That's
down.
Because no,
hold on. You said that it's at 22, right? Mm-hmm. It's they don't know what they're doing. So when Vlad is asking them the questions, it's not their responsibility to know what they're talking about. But now,
No, I never said that. I never said that.
Pardon me, then.
No. What I said was at 22, the level of maturity that these people have when they step in
Yeah.
front of that camera, bright lights, big city, in a world where, I'll say it again, attention is the new currency.
Absolutely.
Of course, they're going to say whatever comes to. They're going to talk reckless. They're going to talk reckless.
Yeah.
Do I hold Vlad responsible for that? For what comes out of another man's mouth? I can't. However, where I think Vlad catches his flack is where I think Vlad catches his flack is because journalistically it's considered reckless.
What is he doing reckless, though?
Allowing that shit to even come to the surface.
I mean, what is so different than ABC and NBC?
Because ABC and NBC are not hip hop platforms.
So because it's hip hop,
Understand?
Yes.
Yeah. Now I'm
Yes.
confused.
Yeah, but they're talking on
Come
records.
The Iceman. The Iceman was a hitman for the mob. He
And
has
they consider him a
whole
liar.
Documentary though. He has a whole documentary. Nobody's going at that company like, yo, what are you doing?
People try to set up a different set of rules for hip hop.
There are a different set of rules for hip-hop.
that really have been around in journalism from the jump. Like when I came in the door, I didn't fashion myself after Sway or or Big Boy or whatever else. And these guys are legends in their own right, and they have a catalog and a history that I respect very much. But that wasn't what I was aspiring to. I was aspiring to 60 Minutes caliber. And when 60 Minutes drops a story, you see global shifts.
Yeah.
You see companies, stock prices plummet. If it's really a damaging story, you see government change laws. You see Congress move.
Oh yeah.
You see social movements happen because of the level, the platform, and everything else like that. You look at important
People feared that.
important things. You look at like situations like the Watergate. Those were journalists who broke that story.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But for some reason, hip hop feels like there's a whole new set of rules that only apply to hip hop, that don't apply to the rest of the world. And I came in like, nah, like journalism rules are going to apply here in the same way.
It's because it's cultural, Vlad. That's the difference.
Right.
The biggest difference you're discussing. There's the culture of business, there's the culture of hip hop, and there's the culture of a people that's tied into hip hop.
Yes.
The reason why we have separate rules is the same reason why most of society may look up to police, but we look at them a little different. The same reason why, a hot comb may not be flying off the shelves, but it's in every black household because because ethnically, culturally, we move a little different. When reckless talk is reckless talk, no matter where it happens. However, and this is one of the things, in the culture of business, it's completely acceptable. Iceman documentary, Watergate,
Right.
perfectly acceptable. However, things that are acceptable in the culture of business are not acceptable in the culture of hip hop, the culture of people. Sean Diddy Combs does a contract. He does a contract that he's seen his predecessors do 1,000,000 times. It's the music business. The locks look at it, sign it, everything's all good. They get pissed off. They want out of the contract. They start telling the details. All of a sudden, it's not fair. Diddy's sitting here talking about the culture of business. Bro, I did business. This wasn't personal.
Right.
But in the culture of a people, yo, you a snake. Look what you just did. You a snake. You starving us. You this, you that.
Yeah.
We do have a different set of rules.
But I gotta say, hold on.
He still got his money.
Right. But here's the thing. Morally,
That's where it comes. That's where a breakdown comes.
morally, there's a judgment called bid. Now, morally, if you sit across from me and you tell me a story with a camera running, in some cases, I will say,
Yo,
he don't know what he doing. We're not putting that out.
understood.
But in other cases, it's like, nah, bro. Like, it's a good story, but that was stupid.
I think people too, we're forgetting the human factor. People like to pick and choose. There was a dude, he did something ridiculous. And it was all over the news. 3 months before he did it, I did the interview with him. And he literally said word for word what he was gonna do. It was as a joke.
Right.
This is a big story. He knows about it.
What was it?
I don't, it's an open case though. You know the two dudes it happened to.
If it was VLADTV, he would have said it.
No, I wouldn't say it. I'd have been like, Vlad, I'm sorry, kick me off the couch. What'd you say?
Hey, you went to that white man's platform.
Oh, that white man's platform. Yeah, Vlad. This is who it is. Here's the paperwork. You sure you want to give me this? Take it all, Vlad. But he called me and said, take that footage down, please, because it's a bad representation. And literally, he went to another platform
And did the same thing.
the same thing. And it's a mega platform. And I said, bro, why would you make me take this down? Mind you, if they ever won, they pull that shit up. That other dude, he's out of jail immediately. So I say people pick and choose. I think a lot of the times people pick and choose with Vlad because he's white.
That's
Real
definitely a
shit.
factor.
I mean, talk that elephant in the
really a
room.
factor.
If he was a black guy, I don't think he'd get the same energy.
Why do y'all keep saying he's white? He's not
Because it's
white.
obvious.
He's not white.
Don't
He's
phenotypically.
white. He's white in the room.
If the police
Excuse me,
identify
excuse
him,
me,
they're gonna say
excuse
white
me,
male
excuse
6'2"
me.
with a beard
Yeah,
right down the
yeah,
street.
but not
This is
really.
the real words. The
Not
real
really.
words coming
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
really. He's white, not really. Not really.
He's not?
No, he's
What
not
is
white.
he? Chinese?
Ask him. He's not white. He's
We
white. You can
talking
say to
about
us he's
no.
white. But that is
we
not a
talking
white
about
man.
look. We talking about the look,
Yes,
not
that's an
culture.
appearance. He's
I-
not white.
No. I know what he is to the
He
culture.
cannot join. He cannot join the Aryan race. He cannot have no
Really?
part of that. He cannot have no part of those skinheads. He is not white.
So when you look at him, what is
they
he
look
then?
at him worse than they even look at you.
So what is he then when you look at him? What are the police gonna describe him as?
Hitler would have wanted his head.
What are the police gonna describe him as if he's running down the streets? Whoa, come on now. I know what you're saying.
No.
Culturally, he's not white.
Again.
I get it.
Again.
Yo,
wait a
bigger,
second.
I know what you
You're
mean.
making a good point. So you're saying, first of all, the police that's chasing him down the street is not white either.
I mean, but what are they gonna describe him as when they're on that radio?
A white man.
Caucasian male.
Caucasian male.
How about
I'm not
that?
trying to play. He's hip
But
hop.
that does not make
He's
him
Jewish.
white.
I mean, listen, bro.
Can we go Caucasian? Can we?
It's the same shit, bro.
Yo,
Listen, I'm trying to find a-
just drop?
Let's drop this shit.
Cause I got a question. Let's go.
Because I think that's the unfair event. Not
go.
unfair, but the blame he gets.
Look, people are gonna do it, bro.
Of course.
You know what I mean? You just gotta pay attention to who's doing
Doing it.
That's
But
it.
it's a
That's
point
it.
to it. If he's not white, he's a minority, just like
The rest of us.
so-called other people.
Yeah.
And we got
it's
the
a
story.
whole
We got the
story
story.
to that. It's a
We
room
got
where
the
he
story.
would be
We get it,
sitting
nigga.
and
We
with
got
real
the story on
Caucasians that look at him.
Right. We got the story on that.
Bang.
It's Hoffa, trapper turn smack rapper. Only smack rapper that you know is smack rappers. Got bars I can hang with the backpackers. Trap star, I don't hang with the backpackers. I'm in the hood with the work you heard. Making fiends leave earth you heard. Got your baby mama thirst you heard. Feel the flow, nigga, throw it in reverse. This the wave you need to surf you heard.